And now for more economic doom. You're a doomer, aren't you? You have to be if you're listening to my channel, because I try to keep things real, headline realist news as usual. And I can't seem to find any real good news on the economy, on anything, except I will say, United States markets rally on such and such. Markets rally on garbage. Markets rally on nothing. Markets rally on huge volume. Markets rally on little volume. Markets rally on markets rally. I'm going to remind you of something, a possibility old Jay Snipfor said sometime last year. I don't know the exact time frame, other than it was probably at least the second half, if not closer towards the end of the year. I said, I could see, and I said this more than once. I'm sure some of you can will remember that. I said, I have an opinion that I could see this whole market crash thing. It starts in Europe first. They scare them out of Europe, and over here in the government, U.S. government bonds and our stock market. And then our market starts rallying, and everyone over there said, well, they're having problems, but hey, United States isn't. They're rallying. Let's go over there. And they'll take all the money that's left over there and dump it into our market. So then all of a sudden our market and everything over here looks great. They're investing in the bonds, treasuries, the market. Not because they wanted to, because they want to flee for safety reasons. But then what happens after it's here? It ain't just going to be pretty. Hey, remember, we got a $19.3 trillion debt. We've increased that from $9 trillion in just 8 years ago. So in 8 years from now, is it safe to say we might have a $40 trillion debt by the time we end of this year? We're going to be close to 20 trillion, if not 20 trillion in debt. So if we can go from 9 to more than doubling, 20 trillion, take 20 trillion and don't more than double it, just double it, $40 trillion. That example, by the way, fits perfectly with the last video I did about Martin Armstrong, when his date of 2032, the gigantic, enormous public debt cycle crashes, 309-year cycle or whatever. That would go perfectly in line with that. We might be on a period of incredible helicopter money. Nobody really knows. But I think they are, in fact, going to let the European system, or people, investment, etc., come right over here to old America. One last final hurrah. Because you remember Lindsey Williams. I was just talking about this today with my buddy Frank at work. He said, oh, yeah. He said, you hear this crap today? Market 18,000, they're back in record-breaking. I said, of course. I said, you remember Lindsey, right? He said, yeah, I remember. When the markets rally after the crash of 2008, they'll rally some more. When you think they're not going to rally anymore, they'll rally some more. When they cannot, no physical possible way rally, they will rally some more. And they'll rally again after that and after that. That's what Lindsey was told. He said, yeah, I know. It's actually doing exactly what he said. I said, I know. So I want to, first the headline, silverdoctors.com. 2 signs the government is planning to confiscate your retirement funds. Does anybody remember? I'm sure you do, because I know I covered it. Nose itching, stand by. Does anybody remember the My IRA? Remember the Obama, I'm going to create this Myra account. It's a safe investment in the government, bonds and treasuries, whatever. It's called the My IRA. We're calling it the Myra, right? And when it came out, I said it immediately. There's going to be a time in the future when your retirement is forced into these Myra accounts. And they'll start with some kind of government workers first, and then they'll do something else here. Then it'll be the rest of us. Oh, 401ks, yep, that's included too. Because they're going to need a lot of people, their money, to help fund the massive expansion of government debt. The debt ceiling, 19 trillion, 20 trillion, to keep going. And it's going to rise like never before. So there's a lot of money in IRAs, 401ks, and retirement. So they're going to want to tap that money. And I actually heard it the other day, and I wish I knew what the source was so I can grab it real quick. But they were already saying that there are certain government. Someone said, "Oh yeah, maybe it was SGT. Was SGT Pool that said it?" He had someone on. They were talking. I think it was him. They were talking about how this particular company that handles their company's 401k just issued a letter. Oh, we're going to be doing some things, moving some, moving the investments around. And then you read the fine print, and it was basically saying we're actually taking our investment out of the market and putting it into these government secure, investments or something like that. And he said, there was no conferring with anyone or asking anyone. They just said, you've already given us the right to invest this, and we've chosen to take it and put it over here. So he said that happened without anyone's approval, right? Since when does a company like that take money out of the stock market to invest in government, garbage normally? So anyways, this was a fantastic read. Once again, Jeff Berwick, the Dollar Vigilante, dollarvigilante.com. This is the same guy that has 100 and something% up as far as his calls have been thus far for at least the past year. You sign up for his newsletter. He says, you have access to all of his positions and everything, and you can see what he's invested in and all that stuff. We've warned that bankrupt governments will be eyeing the multi-trillions of dollars in untaxed retirement funds when they get desperate enough. Total funds currently held in private IRA and 401k accounts in the U.S. are estimated to be in the neighborhood of $10 trillion. As we dance on the brink of a massive collapse, the government's already empty coffers will be even further decimated as the economy contracts massively and tax receipts plummet. In that moment, rather than reducing expenditures and doing massive layoffs and closure of departments like any regular business would do, politicians will nationalize retirement funds for the good of the country. So that was Silver Doctor's comment. Here's Jeff Berwick. It is an incredibly common occurrence. It has happened in numerous countries in just recent memory. Poland, Hungary, and Bolivia are a few in the last years where retirement funds have been seized. Total funds currently held in private IRA and 401k accounts in the U.S. are estimated to be in the neighborhood of $10 trillion. That number looks awfully enticing to the U.S. government, which is currently indebted to the tune of $19 trillion and holding liabilities of over $100 trillion. And I'll add a word in there, holding unfunded and never will be funded liabilities to the tune of $100 trillion. As we dance on the brink of a massive collapse, the government's already empty coffers will be even further decimated as the economy contracts massively and tax receipts plummet. In that moment, rather than reducing expenditure, which again, I guess that wasn't Silver Doctors. I guess they were quoting him as their little summary. Right, so politicians will nationalize retirement funds for the so-called good of the country, and we continue to see movements in that direction. Matter of fact, yes, it was SGT Bull, and he's covering it right now. The SGT report recently posted news from Paychex, which, by the way, the company I work for, my day job, my normal job, I think we used to use them. I'll have to see, because we just switched something recently to do our own paychecks through QuickBooks, do the paychecks for everybody. But we were using Paychex, the company, just like SGT report Bull says. So he says, on the report recently posted news from Paychex, a provider of payroll and benefits outsourcing solutions that is going to move all its clients' IRA cash. Move it to where? From non-government federated cash obligations, i.e. money market accounts, into federated government obligations. The recipient who notified SGT goes on to write, since my 401k money is invested in 3 different precious metals funds, this announcement does not affect me. However, it will impact many other unsuspecting would-be retirees who falsely believe that their money is safe and liquid in a money market account, end quote. He adds that this is the beginning of the government demanding that IRA account holders invest in government debt treasuries, and that he intends to remove his funds from the control of paychecks. Which, by the way, some of your companies out there who use them, sorry, you can't do that. You don't have the current such and such plan with us, so you can't dictate that. We get to dictate it for you, unless you want to use a whole new company. And how many, and then you got to go to your HR department. Listen, HR, my name, you know me, I'm so-and-so. I'm going to pretend, and I actually am truthful, that I know more than these so-called financial experts, economists, paychecks, I want to get my money invested some other way. What can I do? You can't do anything. Company-wide, we use paychecks, so whatever they do, you're just going to have to deal with. All right, can I get my money out? No, you can't. You still have a job here. You can't qualify for, hardship. So, no. But here are their options. Here's a piece of paper. Happy Father's Day. See here. These are your three choices. Happy, Father's, and Day. You can pick one of those three. Okay, but I don't feel comfortable with any of that. Is there anything? Nah. I guess you can quit and then file maybe for a hardship. This is why I've been saying it. I don't do the 401k thing. I don't do the stock market thing. I do the physical. Let me grab the physical precious metal thing. And in my case, I love silver as opposed to gold because I'm quite certain there will be way more upside potential for silver. Again, it's been 80-something to 1 with the price of gold. Only recently, I think it was low as 68 to 1. So, he adds that this is the beginning of the government demanding the IRA account holders invest in government debt treasuries, and that he intends to move his funds from the control of paychecks. Of course, if this becomes common practice in the U.S., there will be no place to go. Not domestically anyways. And chances are this is going to happen sooner or later. Back in 2009, the Wall Street Journal posted an op-ed, How to Fix 401ks. The post describes a radical structural change for the 401k system. It quoted Gene Sturl, a vice president at the Peter G. Peterson Foundation. Peter G. Peterson? Come on. What is this? What is this, a fun house, Wonka? Why, having fun? It quoted Gene Sturl, a vice president at the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, as saying, it's time for a radical structural change. That change would include government, at least partly taking over sponsorship of these accounts, he said. Perhaps this doesn't sound realistic, but after 2008, Congress enacted laws that authorized the U.S. government to freeze and seize citizen bank accounts in case of a banking crisis. This has come to be known as a bail-in. This time around, when the inevitable crash comes, your taxpayer dollars won't be used to bail out the banks. Your retirement funds and deposits will be used. In Cyprus, this sort of law has already been used. Bank depositors found up to 60% of their funds were removed. Think it can't happen in the U.S. or Europe? It is happening as I write. Italian banks are on the precipice of nationwide default. Deutsche Bank in Germany is hanging on by its fingertips. The reverberations of Brexit are continuing to shake the European financial system. The contagion from a serious banking crisis can easily spread around the world. The entire banking system is connected these days, along with central banks. In June, I sat down with TDV Offshores, which is the Dollar Vigilantes, Offshore's Managing Director, Paul Seymour, for an interview. You can see the video of this interview at the end of this article. Paul was employed at mainstream financial shops, but when he couldn't stand it anymore, he quit and even renounced his American citizenship entirely. His main point in our interview was that people living in the U.S. should get themselves and their funds offshore while they can. Here's how I explained it in the article we wrote at the time. activities include, most importantly, opening up offshore IRAs and corporate accounts that are difficult for the U.S. to confiscate. Paul believes that anyone who can get their IRA or 401k out of the U.S. ought to do so as soon as possible. He is sure that once a financial crisis hits the U.S., the federal government will likely react by freezing and then reinvesting people's retirement assets. Instead of stocks and bonds and other asset classes, Paul believes public assets will be dumped into treasuries yielding little or no interest, or even worse, negative interest, where you pay the U.S. government to loan them money for their war on terror. This is a no-brainer. Paul pointed out he was puzzled why more Americans did not take advantage of the time they had left to create financial and lifestyle alternatives overseas. I'll tell you why, Paul. Because we are a bunch of dumbed down morons. Oh, hold on. Pokemon Go. Let me throw a Pokeball at this. That's why. Nintendo's, what was it, their worth or whatever went up $9 billion just because they released the new Pokemon Go app for your phone. I would take my money out of that 401k right now, but I've got a damn Pokeball in my pocket burning a hole. I need to go capture some fake Pokemon out in the street. Now, I do appreciate the fact that they do this so kids can go outside and actually move around and exercise. That's a fantastic idea. It really is. But the last thing we need right now is more freaking entertainment. Right? As the Titanic sinks, the people are dancing like it's 1999. No worry here. Even though we can see the boat sinking a little bit, I'd rather dance. Let me guess one more. See if I can get one more dance in. We are a bunch of dumbed down morons. That's why. And we are also inherently reactionary instead of precautionary. So what this means is when it's too late and people figure this out, that's when they'll want to do something about it. Once again, it will be too late to do something about it, which is why you need your precious metals now. I personally would be scared, even though he's saying get them offshore, go. Those things might be trustworthy now, but are they going to be trustworthy when economic collapse strikes the world and some nation or wherever you parked your 401k happen to be using U.S. dollars and they crash and now they're hurting badly and they realize, well, we're overseas anyways. Good luck. What, are you going to send the international court after us? Like, your 401k money's gone, son. Right? The potential's there. Which means what? I can't put my money anywhere. Right? You might as well put it under a freaking mattress, or I don't want to have to pick up that silver again. I don't want to touch it again. Buy you some precious metals. One can see the globalists finishing touches on their plans to create an international empire. Brexit was likely no accident, and neither is the instability we now face from the increased warfare and economic collapse. I often write about Jubilee 2016 because this is a critical time period. What is necessary now is for a trigger that will cause the collapse necessary to demand a more globalized regime. That trigger and the resultant chaos will be extremely and painfully destructive. If you and your family are not prepared, the consequences will be devastating. As I've mentioned and explained many times, I believe that October, the end of this Jubilee year, will begin the final savage chapter. The exact timing isn't clear, but at the very least, the traps have been set and the explosions have been readied. The blasts can come at any time, tearing down the world's financial system and creating chaos and civil paralysis. Paul can be very helpful to those who want to take advantage of powerful tools that can counteract this impending disaster. For instance, he can create offshore tax-deferred accounts that can be reinvested in tax-deferred investment vehicles. His email address, pseymour@tdvoffshore.com, which I will link you to this article. And if you haven't prepared for what's coming, I'd urge you to use it as soon as possible. Paul knows about offshore investing and resources, but for up-to-the-minute information about the critical events of the second half of 2016, I'd suggest you subscribe to our TDV newsletter. Thousands have subscribed over the past months because of our Jubilee 2016 analysis, which has shown us clearly what the elites have in mind. Our investment approach, based on our Jubilee analysis, has more than doubled the value of the TDV portfolio and provided subscribers the opportunity for considerable profit. If you have any significant amount of money in an IRA or 401k, or know anyone who does, I urge you to watch my interview with Paul Seymour here. I, again, have been following Mr. Jeff Berwick for a while, and he is on point with a lot of what he says. I mean, he really is. So, again, I'll link the Silver Doctor's link for you to read the whole thing. If you want to check out the guy's site as well, sign up for a newsletter. That's your business. Again, I did last year, but I quit, I think, around January or February. And then it was only $25 a month, I think. I just wanted to see what they were invested in. And I was more interested in their mining, junior miners, major miners, which did fantastic since the time I last looked, which was December. When I looked at it, what it was in December, what their calls were, and then went, a few months later, because I wrote them down on paper at the time. Oh, wow, these things went up significantly. Missed out on that one. However, I hate playing this in the system. It's the club system. And you might be able to get in and out and make some money, and Dollar Vigilante may be able to get out and get some money. But if the system goes down or they do something and they snatch up your funds and you can't do nothing with them, then what? That's why I like being out of the system. Physical precious metals. Take care.